Okay, we went way off left.
Too much pot tar.
way too much pod tar.
Welcome back to another episode of Too Much Pod Tar as we continue our 30 teams and 30 pods. And this episode will be the Rangers, and I have special guest on today, the new Rangers bullpen coach, Doug Mathis. He was just hired back in January, and he was minor league pitching coach for the past 3 years with the Seattle and Toronto organizations, and he also pitched professionally for 11 years in the big leagues. He only pitched in 45 games in the minor leagues from 2008 to 2010 with the Rangers. He also pitched in Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. So he's been around. So it's exciting to talk to somebody from the organization. So I'm Alex, and then I also have Johnny on. My other guy is on, Johnny. So
hey, how's it going?
Hello, Johnny. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man.
Getting excited? Was it 7 days? Little pitches and catches report?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, our first report day is the 11th. First workout's the 12th. So yeah, it always goes fast. Pretty much after Christmas and the New Year, spring training kind of comes fast. So.
Right. Yeah. So how's it been like to get accustomed, like some of the players? How's it been like getting to know them?
It's been good. It's always whenever you're a new guy and you're changing teams. I've done that. This is my second time doing that now. Right. And even going in when I first started with Seattle, that's always probably the most important thing you do as a coach, going in and just kind of getting to know those guys, building those relationships. And you don't really talk about too much baseball, too much pitching early on. You just try to get to know them, kind of where they're from, what they like to do, and if you kind of share any common interests. So that's really what you kind of use. It's good to use the off season, excuse me, to kind of introduce yourself to guys, and when guys come in early, it's good to have this time to, in a relaxed kind of format, to just kind of get to know them more as a person, because you have plenty of time to talk about baseball stuff. It's always good to kind of take your time and sometimes pump the brakes a little bit on the baseball talk.
Yeah, right. That's always good. And who's like some of the guys that you've gotten to know the most, like so far? Would you say?
Well, I made a trip down to the Dominican to see some of the guys down there. I met with Jose Leclerc, Rafael Montero, Edison Volquez, who actually I know Volky from when I played, so it was good to see him again. And a few other guys that are coming to camp. I got to know those guys down there. It was kind of cool. Got to go, see them at their houses and just kind of meet them, and they welcome us into their houses. So that was kind of cool to see that. And then everyone's just kind of in the same spot. Like I've talked to these guys on the phone a few times, and then starting to put faces to names. So I'm still in the process of getting to know everybody. So it's always challenging but fun. When you're doing that.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds exciting. Must be pretty exciting to get an opportunity to be in the major leagues with coaching a team like this, a young team that's got some promise.
Yeah, and I'm excited. I got lucky in a way with how it all worked out. I think you always want to be like kind of the right place, right time thing, and Oscar Marine, who left here to go take the Pirates job. I've actually known Oscar for years when he was coaching here with the Rangers when I was still playing, and we always stayed in touch. And then I actually had him as my pitching coordinator for 2 years with Seattle when I was over there. So I worked with him, and then when he came back over here, I left and went to Toronto, and then he obviously got the job, and it just so happened that I got the interview with the Rangers, and it worked out. So it's exciting. I'm excited to get the opportunity. It happened fast. I was pretty sure I was going back to the Blue Jays. I was already kind of focused on that, and then I got a phone call one day from the Blue Jays farm director Gil Kim, and we wanted to know if I wanted to interview for the Rangers bullpen job, and I obviously said yes. So the coming back over here has been great. It's I loved it when I played here, and then coming back over here as a coach, it's probably been a little easier transition for me just because I played here, and a lot of the guys that are here that were here when I played, like John Daniels and Josh Boyd and multiple other coaches and front office guys are still here. So that transition has been pretty good. They're familiar with me. I having come up with the Rangers, so I kind of had all that kind of background stuff built in. So it's been a pretty smooth transition so far.
Yeah, definitely sounds exciting. It sounds like you're really looking forward to the opportunity. So
yeah, absolutely.
What would you kind of like bring from your pitching days to like be as a coach? What do you kind of think like some of the best lessons you learned that you kind of try to teach other pitchers?
The way I try to approach guys is that it's I've played at every level. I've played overseas in Japan, Korea, and Taiwan. I've pitched in winter ball in Venezuela and the Dominican. And I think it's just being able to kind of relate to the players and kind of let them know that whether they're going good or going bad, that you've been in their shoes. Not saying that I don't know. I know way less than things I know about, and I think if you can just kind of let them know that you've been in their shoes and you know what they're going through, and just kind of create conversations that way. It's kind of how I try to approach it. But you can fall back on multiple experiences, from whether it was things you did when you're coming up in the minor leagues, situations that you had while you were in the big leagues or when you were kind of bouncing around in AAA or going overseas. I think there's a lot of things you can relate to the players with, and then just using like other players that you played with that other examples of guys that were successful when you played, kind of using those guys as examples too of things that they can pay attention to, or kind of using kind of comparisons of you're kind of similar to this guy. I played with this guy who was really good, stuff like that. I think just not saying that like you have to listen to me because I've been there, done that type thing, but I think it's just letting the guys know that I know what you're going through. So and I think having them understand that how hard the game is and how difficult it can be, especially at the major league level, that you're going to have your ups and downs, and that you're not going to nail it every night, and that's okay. But what can we do to kind of figure out how to get better and not worry about the bad things that are going on? I think that helps out a lot.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely some good advice to have. And what's kind of like some of the fun things that you get to do when you're like around the team? Like, have you played any games or anything with some of the guys?
The most fun I have with guys is really, I like the just the clubhouse interaction with guys. I'm a coach that I know you have to kind of separate yourself sometimes from the players and give them their space and not be too involved in the clubhouse. But I like to walk through the clubhouse and kind of see what they're talking about, and they mixing with some of the conversations and the band they have going on. Whether they're talking about whatever game's going on or whatever's going on that day, just kind of listen to them talk. That's always fun. Then my big thing I like to do with guys is just to kind of see them off the field, and a lot of time that is like going out on the golf course. That's like my only hobby I have. I like to play golf, and I think that's a valuable time to spend with guys, because you're out there together for 4 hours, and you can really talk about anything you want, and you're kind of sharing that common interest, and it kind of builds that relationship that way. And those are pretty simple things, but I try to be a coach that creates those relationships, but I also understand that you have to you can't go too far, because then the players they'll kind of view you as a player more than a coach. So you've kind of got to be careful with how you balance that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned about pitching in Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. Like, what's like some of the differences between pitching overseas and from here?
Yeah, I think the biggest things off the bat obviously is just the culture of all those countries. I think that's the biggest adjustment you have to make when you go to any country, even if you're going to play winter ball. You're in a different country. You're probably speaking a different language. The baseball is probably different, but when it gets down to it, you're still playing the same game, and there's certain things that work in certain spots, and you kind of have to learn and be able to communicate the best you can. But I think it's more the cultural adjustments you have to make, whether it's adjusting to the food, adjusting to the language barrier, adjusting to the lifestyle, adjusting to how the media operates and all different spots, how the fans interact with you. That's a big adjustment too. Like going to Korea and Japan, the fans are probably a lot more. I don't want to say like they're a little more interactive. I think they're a little more like I guess it's more of like I guess I would just describe it as like kind of a soccer atmosphere, to where I'm not saying that the fans here in the States aren't good by any means, but it's a different atmosphere, and I think that can be an adjustment too, of going to your first game, couple of games there, and there's music playing, there's songs being played, and it's a little more rowdy environment in a lot of those situations than when you go to games here. But then when you peel all that back, you're still playing baseball, so it's you can always have that to fall back on.
Yeah, exactly, and it's kind of like playing every game like at the A's stadium with all the drums and stuff they make, all the noises they make.
Yeah. At first, it can catch you off guard, but it's it can be a little overwhelming if you're not, if you kind of pay attention to that stuff. But you get used to it, just like anywhere else. Once you kind of just accept it, and that's the way it is wherever you're at. Just kind of embrace where you're at. It's usually the best approach to take.
Yeah, for sure. So, I guess just I don't know if anything else you want to talk about with the team that I didn't ask about.
No, I mean I think our group here I think we have a chance to be pretty good, especially off the mound. I think with our rotation, the way it's lining up, I think has a chance to be a really good rotation with Kluber, Lynn, and Minor, kind of a three-headed monster, especially with Minor and Lynn coming off the years they had last year, and their track records. They're veteran guys that know what they're doing, and they've obviously had some success. And then obviously having Kluber joining the staff, I think that's a huge upgrade for us, especially if we get the Kluber that we know we're expecting to get. That can be a huge upgrade. And then I think anytime you have a deep rotation, that always helps out your bullpen, because you're not asking the bullpen to get overused, or guys have more solidified roles. And I think you can have a lot more success that way. And I think a lot of our arms in the pen are very talented. I think we have some guys that are maybe a little unproven, but I think our talent and some of the stuff that's going to come out of the pen is pretty exciting. I think we have a decent amount of velocity coming out of the pen, and we have a lot of different looks. So that's exciting. I think coming into my first major league job, it's a really good situation because Julio, our pitching coach, he just went through his first year as a major league coach, so he's got that under his belt, and I can kind of lean on him for advice and things. And then just kind of coming into a situation to where you feel good about your rotation, and you feel good about the bullpen you're going to have, and we're going to have some pretty good depth there too. So that's exciting, and I think it's almost like you try to not go in there kind of guns blazing to kind of like show everyone what you know, but you kind of like almost in certain situations almost stay out of their way because they already are pretty good, and you're there to kind of lend a hand whenever they need it. So that's kind of my approach right now, is to be patient with with these guys and kind of just, like I said earlier, get to know them and build those relationships. But I am excited with, with the potential we have. I know potential is kind of a bad word to use sometimes, but I think we have a chance to be pretty good. That's exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
I was curious. I just wanted to ask a question. I was just curious, how does it work as far as like exactly what the bullpen coach does? Like, what do you have like a plan going down when you get to spring training, as far as like a daily routine? And also, do you work with the starters at all? And does the pitching coach work with the relievers at all? Kind of how does that work hand in hand?
Basically, like, the way it was explained to me, and the kind of the way that I've seen it operate in the past is that, obviously I'm the bullpen coach, so I will probably work closer with the relievers on most days, but I'm also kind of the assistant pitching coach too. So it's not going to be like, Julio deals with just the starters. I'm dealing with just the relievers. It'll definitely be a group effort. And that's not just me and Julio too. It's got to be a group effort between, myself and Julio and, the trainers, strength coach, the other coaches, like, but yeah, basically it's I'm here to help out and kind of share my thoughts, share my ideas on certain guys, certain things. I think the biggest thing with the bullpen coach and having that role is to make sure that guys are prepared on any given day, and that you're there to give them as much information as they want or need, and you're making sure that when the game starts that you've covered everything you can cover leading up to that game, and that when guys are preparing to go into the game, they're doing they're preparing the right way, they're doing their routine how they should be doing, and you're making sure that you're at least sending them into the game knowing that you didn't really leave anything unturned. You're going to miss stuff that happens throughout a season, but I think the biggest thing is to make sure that like the starters have their routines to where they throw their sides, they go through all their scouting reports. But as a bullpen coach, you got to make sure you're doing your best to make sure the relievers are doing some form of that, and however that looks like, I don't know. I think spring training is the time to kind of figure that out with guys and have conversations of what they like, what they what they want, what they don't want, or new things you can kind of bring to their attention of how they prepare. But that's a big part of what I'm going to try to get across to these guys is, doesn't really matter, what your stuff is. Your stuff's your stuff, but can we be really good at preparing and making sure that when you go out there, you have enough kind of ammunition to attack hitters.
And speaking of that preparation, I was just curious how in the past couple organizations you've been in, and even I'm sure it's completely different from when you played also, is how has the technology changed as far as the scouting, what kind of analytics are used and things like that in preparation for getting a big series against the Angels? Like how does Leclerc get ready to face Mike Trout or something like that? Is there anything different now, like I said, than when you were playing, or anything you've noticed in the past couple of years?
Oh yeah, I mean it's changed from when I was playing. Like I think I don't think the process and the kind of the way you would go about preparing has really changed. I think it's just the amount of information we have now, and that kind of comes in the part where, as being a coach, you have to kind of figure out, you can't, no longer are the days where you treat everyone the same, where you just have kind of a blanket scouting report for a hitter. Like, okay, everyone's going to pitch Mike Trout this way. I think with all the information we have, makes it to where we can be a lot more individualized. So where, Lance Lynn and Leclerc or Jesse Chavez, like those guys are probably going to have an idea of what Mike Trout does, obviously well, and what he doesn't do well, but they're probably not going to pitch. All three of those guys are probably not going to pitch him the same, So I think those are things that we can be better at, and we can make sure that we're, checking those boxes and making sure that we're letting the players kind of own their own plans and own their own kind of, processes of how they do things, and getting away from okay, we're just going to do this to everybody. And I don't think that really kind of works anymore especially with the good hitters, because I think you have to be able to make adjustments and be unpredictable in a certain way. And then like the technology and all the data, there's a lot of it's, I guess, newer, but it's just there's a lot more of it, and I think it's how you present it to the players. If you're able to take it and look at what's going on with a certain hitter facing a certain pitcher, but can you explain that to a player in a way that he's going to understand it, in a way that he's going to use, and finding out what's too much maybe for a certain guy, and then what guys can handle more, and then also using that to balance, like talking to the catchers too, because they're kind of your pitching coach on the field, and just learning how to balance all that. I think it's a lot more in-depth process. It's still the same, but I think there's just more detail to it now. But I think we can also get wrapped up in a lot of stuff too, and you kind of can kind of start going down rabbit holes, and you kind of forget that, well, let's just rely on our strengths. And that's how a lot of guys like to operate that way. But I think when you start game planning and going over preparing, I think that helps guys kind of formulate, better ways to have more adjustability in their game, and not just relying on like their pure good stuff every night, because there's nights where you don't have your best fastball, your best breaking ball, and can we formulate plans to combat that,
Yeah, paralysis by analysis, right? When you have too much information, it's just like, what am I looking at here?
Yeah, and I think that's the balance of trying to figure out, what players want what. Some guys like to know every little thing, and some guys only want, bits and pieces. And then some guys are visual learners. Some guys, want to see heat maps. They want to see where they have to throw their fastball, where their breaking ball's got to be for a swing and miss, not just on the numbers, but they want to like see it visually. So it's just finding those balances of how guys want to be coached and how guys want information presented to them. And I think that probably makes it more challenging than it used to be. But I think it also makes it better, because the players can kind of be individualized, and they can own their plan, their process, and they know if they execute that, they're going to have 100% success, but they're going to be, the best version of themselves, more often than not, if they're doing things that are, over time, that are sustainable, that they're going to have success with. How'd you guys start this podcast?
We actually started last season, like right before the season. And we write for like a site. And
okay.
Johnny's actually he's the creator of it, and he wanted to like do a baseball podcast. So I reached out to him and was like, oh, I'm down for starting this podcast. So
nice.
Then I just started to host it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. It's been.
Yeah, we've gotten. We started it kind of last year, but it kind of, it was a little less consistent because we just started the website a year and a half ago.
Okay.
So this year we're definitely getting more into it. We've done a lot of different team previews and stuff like that, and this year we're going to be more and more. We're getting more and more popular. The scorecrow.com is the website. So we've only been a site for a year and a half, but we're getting there, and it's been building. So it's been great. Just looking forward to. Forward to baseball. We cover football, basketball, and hockey, as well as fantasy sports and stuff like that too. DFS, everything. So
you guys are busy then, huh?
Yeah, busy. I actually have to work on my fantasy catcher rankings tonight to have it out tomorrow. So.
Oh wow! All right, got it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. Thanks again for coming on, talking some.
No problem. Sorry about all the mix-up on the technology. I'm good with the baseball technology. I guess not this Skype stuff. So
yeah, it's all right.
But no, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, no problem.
Congratulations on the job, and good luck this year for you and the
I
Rangers.
appreciate it. Yeah, reach out anytime you guys want. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks a lot.
You.
See you guys.
See ya.
Bye.